Welcome back, folks. Largely, voting is a right in our country, but for marginalized groups, the journey to the polls in the past has been uphill. Children's book author and illustrator Don Tate joins us this election year to talk about his new collaboration with author Wade Hudson, a children's book called The Day Madear Voted. We're happy to have him. Don, good morning.
I am so honored to be here with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I love that we have so much talent right here in Austin. I want to ask you a little bit about your history as a children's book author and illustrator.
I have always been the kind of kid who loved to draw. I was the kind of kid who was doodling on the back of my math papers. I was making handmade puppets out of trash that I found around the house. I ended up going to college and studying commercial art and advertising, and basically I just followed my aunt into the field of children's publishing. She was writing young adult novels, and one of her novels was made into a movie. And when it debuted at the library, my aunt spoke about the importance of African Americans centering voices, centering African American voices in children's books. And the importance of African American kids being able to walk into a library and see a book that features a character that looks like them. Can you imagine as a child walking into the library and there's books about talking animals and white children and talking cars, but no books that feature people who look like you? It says that you're not important. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to commit my career to creating books where all kids could see themselves.
I think it's incredible the work that you do, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about it, but can you just touch on some of the books that we have here in front of us, because some of them do feature Black stories?
So yes, one of my most recent books is called Jerry Changed the Game. It's the story of the African-American self-taught inventor Jerry Lawson, who invented the video game cartridge.
Did he really?
Do you remember Pong from the 70s?
Of course.
Everyone wanted to play Pong, but there was a problem with Pong. You could only play one game per console. So Jerry Lawson came up with the idea, let's put lots of video games on a cartridge. Here's the cartridge here. Cool. Lots of video games on a cartridge. You stick the cartridge into the console, and now you can play hundreds of video games. It revolutionized the billion-dollar video game industry.
And it's still the methodology that we use today is you buy one system and plug those, games in. That's incredible.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And then we have Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's super sulky stream of inventions. This is the story of the man who invented the super soaker squirt gun that everyone played with back in the 80s.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Some really fun inventions and some very cool stories there. Let's talk about your new book. This, I think, is a little bit cerebral for kids because it's now for ages 3 to 7, but we're trying to get them interested in the idea of voting and how important it is. It's called The Day Madear Voted. Tell me a little bit about this story.
So the story is written by Wade Hudson, and it is based upon his lived experience. And the story is about two little boys who, back in 1969, in a small town in Louisiana, go to vote with their mother for the very first time.
Oh.
And they are so excited to experience that day. But before they go out to vote, their mother explains some of the history and some of the challenges that African Americans faced trying to vote. Mm-hmm. There was a time in this country when African Americans would try to vote and we would face reading tests, or we would have to pay poll taxes, or they would set a great big jar of jelly beans in front of us and you'd have to guess the number of jelly beans accurately before you were allowed to vote.
It's a test designed to fail.
Yeah, so it's the story goes on to where the boys experience the day with their mother. They see the joy in her face as she leaves the voting booth. And then the story goes fast forward until 2008. The boys have grown up and the family is going to vote together, only this time they're getting to vote for an African American candidate, Barack Hussein Obama, who was proclaimed the 44th president of the United States. So while the story does, tap into some very challenging historical subject matter, the story also leaves our readers with a lot of hope that they one day will be able to grow up and have the power to cast their vote and have a voice.
And it's exactly like what you said at the library, seeing people in power who look like us.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. You wanted to do a little reading from the front page of this book.
Yes. And I'll talk a little bit about the process of creating the illustrations as well. Today was the day our mother had been looking forward to. She was wearing one of her best dresses, even though it was Tuesday. So you can see in this illustration,
This is gorgeous, y'all. Look at this.
it is not my job to simply decorate the author's words. It's my job to extend the story and to give my readers more information. So on this page, you can see how the story is set by the clothing that the characters are wearing, by the hairstyles, by the decorations of the room. This is my grandmother's foyer.
So you did Grandma's foyer in this book.
So I put a lot of myself into the story as well. This is my grandmother's old-fashioned telephone. So it's my job to show my readers what things would have looked like.
Absolutely, in this lovely photo of Martin Luther King Jr. on the wall.
Because during that time period, folks would hang pictures of Dr. King on the wall. And those are all clues to the time period in which the characters lived.
And we want kids to look at the pictures as well as the words. It makes it all that much more enriching. But I know people are now going to read this book with a little bit more like, hey, look for this and this, now that we hear how much effort you're putting into those beautiful illustrations. I want to ask how we can get this book.
So you can buy this book anywhere, any place where books are sold. So Book People, Barnes & Noble, Black Pearl Books, Amazon, anywhere books are sold.
Wonderful, and it comes out on July 9th. I hate that we have to leave it there. Don, we'll have to have you back in the studio, but congratulations on the new novel.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here and to share my stories.
Of course. All right, guys, learn more about Don's work and where it's available. He's got cool new stuff in the pipeline, y'all. A book about Prince and a book about kids learning to swim. It's DonTate.com.